In this video, I'm going to answer the question, can you survive a nuclear event? Short answer is yes, absolutely. The most well-known example to look at is the end of World War II. Japan got nuked twice. The country is still there. Yes, lots of people lost their lives in those bombings. Japan's population is not suffering from weird mutations. The country is going forward, right? So yes, absolutely, you can survive a nuclear event. You can survive nuclear bombing. And the world will not go into nuclear winter because of this event, right? I'm old enough that I grew up with air raid drills the first couple years that I was in grade school here in the United States. I vividly remember running down...
What? Don't run!
Down the basement stairs to the furnace room. Who knew that grade schools had basements? That room was really creepy. And that sign at the top of the stairs that read Fallout Shelter and had the black and yellow triangle type things on it really didn't help calm us down either. There's no way the entire school would fit into that tiny basement room. I'm pretty sure it's just a kindergarten class that got sent down those creepy, dirty, spiderweb covered concrete steps to that little tiny room. The next couple of years, we just simply hid under our desk for the air raid drills. And it seems that when President Reagan was re-elected, the air raid drills stopped completely, and we just did tornado drills and fire drills from that point on. The term Fallout Shelter faded away into a distant memory, and everyone just started calling everything a tornado shelter. And now, almost 40 years later, people are wondering if you can survive a nuclear event and rediscovering what a fallout shelter is. Most people seem to think that a nuclear event is the absolute end of the world. Civilization will cease to exist. Maybe only a handful of people will survive, and those people will be mutants. But in reality, the Earth has seen many nuclear detonations and disasters and contaminations, and we're still here. Well, we as in the Earth and the population of humans. Another thing to think about is how many nuclear bombs were tested in the desert southwest of the United States. That area is still habitable. Well, as a matter of opinion. How many people watched those nuclear bombs go off and lived? I mention all of this to bring you down to reality. Point out that if you're not in the blast radius, if you're not in that immediate blast area, you're going to survive if you take proper precautions. And of course, the further away you are from it, the less you have to do to survive. I tried to find some numbers to throw at you for a blast radius, but it seems that nuclear devices vary greatly. But some of the numbers that I found were saying that a large nuclear bomb is going to destroy everything within a 2-mile radius. That's about a 3.2 kilometer radius. So if it's a large nuclear device, if you're within 2 miles of the detonation, you're probably just not going to make it. You don't have to worry about anything, so that's fine there. Third-degree burns are possible out to 7 miles away, or about 11.2 kilometers. And flash blindness, if you look at the explosion, is possible up to 13 miles away, or 21 kilometers from the detonation. And of course, these numbers can vary greatly because not all nukes are created equal, but that is for a nuclear bomb type device, which most likely in this day and age is not going to be used. So I would say these are probably going to be extreme numbers. I tried to find some numbers about what would be used in a war, which I think in the scheme of things, that's what's on everybody's mind right now is nuclear missiles coming over. And just as a reminder, if you live in the United States, you're going to be looking to the north for intercontinental ballistic missiles, because up over the North Pole is the shortest distance that country that we might be worried about launching missiles at us. And I'd say the biggest concern right now is Europe getting nuked from the east. So, yeah. And of course, the reason you clicked on this video is because you want to know how on earth do I survive a nuclear bomb. All right, that's specifically what we're going to look at, is a nuclear bomb, a nuclear missile, something like that. When I was in grade school in the early 80s, we actually had literature that was from the 50s that described very clearly what to do. So I'm going to kind of go through what I remember from some of that literature. I tried to find some of the stuff online again and look through it. And so these are the steps to surviving a nuclear event. The government says the first thing to do is prepare. Having a plan and being prepared helps reduce anxiety. Hey, you're watching this video, which means you're preparing. All right, good. First step done, right? All right, so it's not quite that simple. Where do you get started on your preparations? And the answer is very simple. One word: shelter. So, is what I would do first is look around in your community, see if there are any fallout shelter signs still up. They look like this. Do you remember that? Have you ever seen those before? In my area, I find these signs at the schools, at the community shelter, and surprisingly at the bank. So I would start with those places. I think some communities even still have dedicated fallout shelters set up, but I don't know how many of those have really survived. Another good place to look would be a business district, the industrial complex. A lot of those big concrete buildings are going to be great for surviving nuclear fallout and maybe even a not so close nuclear blast, right? This would be really important on your commute to and from work if you're still commuting to work after the last couple of years. So look for a shelter, and if you're still commuting to work, try to find shelters along your work route, really close, something like that. The next thing to do is to evaluate your house. If you're in a concrete apartment building complex, you're probably pretty golden, honestly. Concrete is a very good barrier for nuclear events. Do you have a basement? Great. Do you have an old root cellar? Great. Just kind of look around. If you're in a mobile home, if you live in a van full time, which I would like to do, chances are not so good. Hopefully you can drive away, right? Evaluate your shelter. If you got a basement, if you're in a concrete building, something like that, you're really good. And of course, the next thing to talk about is improvised shelters. The thing I remember most from the literature that we had when I was a kid was building a fort out of books. I remember a picture of a family hiding behind a tall stack of books, because books are going to really stop the radiation, help stop the blast. It's really good to do that. So build yourself a wall of books. However, does anybody have enough books in their house to do this anymore? I really don't know. And if you're looking for something a little more sturdy than a stack of books, there are several pamphlets on the internet from the 50s and 60s that talk about how to make a good fallout shelter from sandbags or concrete blocks. So hop on the internet and do some looking around. I'm sure there's also a lot of new information out there too on how to do this. Another improvised shelter that I'd like to talk about is from the Soldier's Manual of Common Tasks 1. It's got a very nice section on building shelters and stuff like that in a pinch. Of course, this is the military, so their solution is dig a foxhole, right? But one thing I really want to show you is this picture here of the entrance into a place. Of course, they use sandbags, but having this turn really makes the blast not be able to come in, and like a lot of the fallout won't come in and stuff like that. So having this S-turn is really nice, or whatever you want to call that. They call them baffles, or turns in a shelter entrance. They can prevent overpressure buildups and entry of dust and debris. So create yourself something like that. And then in the Soldier's Manual of Common Tasks, levels 2 through 4, it goes into this: foxholes and parking an armored vehicle over it and what position to lay in. They also talk about culverts being a good place to survive a nuclear event. I have to agree with that one. And of course, buildings in the basement down there, bunkers, that kind of stuff. This is the one I love right here. Foxhole with a tank parked over it, right? So if you're needing to dig yourself a foxhole, I suggest you get started on that right now. You call that a corner? Anyway, sorry. And of course, they go into stuff like, do not look at the blast, keep your head down. Actually, they say keep your head up. I forgot about that. Look at this one here. Head up, on your back, knees on your chest. And of course, the biggest thing to talk about on being in your shelter is how long do you stay there? And a lot of the places that I was looking at online were saying that if it's a nuclear bomb, 48 hours is about all you need to stay in. A nuclear event like a power plant running amok, now that could be a totally different story because you might have a constant source of radiation. But a bomb, in 48 hours, everything should be good. Wind, storms, stuff like that can be carrying the fallout to different places. So that might be another concern. But fallout is literally just raining of nuclear particles. So basically think about it like dust. Wherever dust coming down will get into your house is where you're going to have trouble with the nuclear fallout getting in. Stuff like air conditioner intakes, chimneys, your windows. So what I'm getting at here in this is you probably want to go buy yourself a few rolls of painter's tarp, that plastic you put down. That way you can have that on hand to tape up your windows. And I would actually suggest taping up a couple of your windows right now just to try it on the inside of your house. Make sure you know what you're doing, because you don't want to have to be doing this in 10 minutes or something like that and just going nuts and not having a clue how to tape this up. Taping plastic to your window seems like an easy thing, but I guarantee you when you're stressed out and you haven't done it before, you're going to fumble and just drive yourself insane. Go ahead and cut out all the plastic pieces to go over all your windows and make sure you know where your tape is and have that stuff ready to go if you really are worried about it. And of course, that means you need to have enough food and water and stuff to deal with going to the bathroom for at least 48 hours. My personal goal is to have 2 weeks worth of stuff on hand for that. And I know that's a big ask, especially in today's economy. Food prices are ridiculous. But if there is any way you can build up 2 weeks of food in your house, put it in totes. Also make sure you have a way to go to the restroom. You may not be able to count on the sewer working, so make sure you have your 5-gallon buckets with lots of cat litter or compost material, however you're going to do that. Read up on how to use a bathroom in a 5-gallon bucket. There's lots of good videos out there on doing it. It's not as gross as it seems. So if you can get yourself set up to live 2 weeks in your house, you'll be in a great position. There's other reasons to go for 2 weeks, biological attacks too, not just nuclear. But I'm a big fan of bugging in. I feel like there's very few situations in which a person's actually going to bug out. So make sure your house is set up for bugging in. Well, I feel like I've been talking for a really long time, and this video pretty much just hit the crucial points, however you want to word that. There's a lot more I could talk about. I could sit here and ramble on to you for probably another hour, but hopefully this calmed you down a little bit. And if you want to do some more reading and some more research, I highly recommend starting at ready.gov, and they have a great resource there. That website is really good. Lots of resources there, actually. PDFs you can download, stuff you can print, all kinds of things. Also, I highly recommend getting the FEMA app. They will issue alerts and warnings through that, and all kinds of information is shared through the FEMA app. So get the FEMA app. I'll link some more stuff down below that you can read about. But yeah, with a little preparation, a little bit of a calm mind, stay calm, you can definitely survive a nuclear event. Hopefully, we don't have to. But given the world's circumstances today, it really feels like it's getting to be more and more of a possibility instead of a probability. You know what I'm saying? All right, y'all. Stay safe out there. Get to know your community. Be prepared. See you in the next one.